AI browsers are having their iPhone moment right now, and each one of them is claiming to revolutionize the way we browse. But while everyone's arguing about which one is the best, they're missing the bigger question. Are any of them actually worth using? I tested these browsers across a few practical scenarios to determine whether or not they're any good. And even if you decide that any of them are worth using, no one's teaching you how to prompt them correctly. Because the way you prompt an AI browser or an agentic browser is very different from the way you prompt something like ChatGPT. So today I'm going to walk through 4 of the more popular browsers, and more importantly, how to actually prompt them and use prompt templates to unlock their true potential. And these are templates that you can just copy, paste, and tailor for your personal use. If you watch till the end of this video, you're going to learn 3 things. 1, whether AI browsers are worth your time at all. And 2, if they are worth your time, which one fits the specific needs that you have? And 3, the prompting frameworks that separate those who just burn their money in subscriptions versus actually derive value from them. Let's get into it. All right, so today I'm going to be reviewing these 4 popular agentic browsers. First, we're going to take a look at Comet from Perplexity, then GenSpark Browser from GenSpark, and then Fellou as well as Dia Browser. And before we get into the nitty gritty, let me show you a quick tour of each browser. So this is what Perplexity Comet looks like. And you can grab it from someone who has a private invite who can bring you on for free for the cost of subscription, or you'd have to pay $200 a month, which is pretty steep. In terms of the interface itself, it looks very similar to the normal Perplexity, where you have 3 tiers of search right here. Then you have all the same tools, as well as the ability to invite others once you get access, as well as this nice and handy dandy assistant, which if you click on, pops up as a co-pilot. And that's one element that all of these browsers share in one way or another, but you can basically have something on screen while this looks at what's on screen and then gives you commentary or does research. So theoretically, you could pull up an end-to-end workflow and then click on the assistant on the right-hand side, then ask something like, can you look at the workflow on screen and explain to me what's happening and what a OpenAI embedding is? And then if we send that over, it should be able to now control the screen, and you'll know that because there'll be a pulsating blue wave on the screen. It'll be able to look at what the JSON looks like behind the scenes and then actually interact with it. So you can see here it's pulsating because it's actually interacting with every element on screen to be able to click on a specific node and come to the conclusion of what we're looking at. And the next one is the GenSpark browser, which just came out with a brand new feature that does differentiate it compared to the competitors. So if you haven't used GenSpark before, essentially it is a super app that lets you do all kinds of things like create AI docs, create AI vibe coded apps, design, even something like an Opus clip, as well as AI podcasts and chat and all kinds of other functionality. And essentially the browser just lets you access GenSpark on your device, but the newer feature that they've added is the ability here to have on-device free AI. So if you open this, you could theoretically have a local language model on your computer, and you can see right here, I have GPT-OSS, OpenAI's open source model, on my local computer that I can just tap into and use, and then I can use it for the agentic browsing behind the scenes. Because one major theme that you're going to notice in all of these browsers is that when it comes to security, they don't do a great job. So the ability with this one to have an offline mode definitely gives it a bit of an advantage. And one more thing specifically about this browser is you can connect tools and MCP servers to it. So one major advantage is that they have a mini MCP marketplace. So as you go through, you can see right here we have Hacker News MCP and all kinds of community generated MCP servers. The next one is the Fellou browser, and this one is really different in terms of the look and feel. So if I go into a brand new tab here, it uses a credit system, and it has 2 main modes. One is deep thinking and one is deep action. And then this little @ sign allows you to compare multiple tabs. Now in this browser, they make the @ symbol intentional to tell you that if you have 1 or 2 tabs or multiple tabs open, you could do @ to say, go and read these tabs and do XYZ task. And then as you type, it will try to do some autocorrect or auto prompting for you. So if I say something like, go research the best ways to use vibe coding apps, is going to try to find a way to actually optimize your search or prompt so you can make it a bit better. So you can see here, compare different vibe coding apps and recommend the most efficient ones. But one very funky thing about the user interface here is that while you can open tabs here, you can have different chat sessions stored on the right-hand side of your browser. So if I click on this right here, you can also initiate having a deep thinking conversation or a deep action conversation where it comes up with a very comprehensive plan takes anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes to try to execute this agentic task. Theoretically, sounds awesome. In practice, not the most reliable. And the last one is the browser, which is very clean to look at, but definitely lacks in terms of the agentic capabilities. It does have a very minimalistic look and feel, and if you go to something like skills and you go to browse skills, you'll see right here there's a few different slash commands that you can add. So if you want to click on fact checker, you can click on try on dia or dia browser, and then click on add skill. And then once you add that skill, you can do a slash command to actually call that specific skill. So essentially, when you call slash fact check, it will run this prompt behind the scenes. And you can see now that I installed it, I can do slash fact check. And then it could be regarding something specific. Let's say fact check this site. And behind the scenes, it will execute this underlying prompt that you can edit if you want. So it's a very minimalistic browser, and you can have this little copilot on the right-hand side as well that can see what's on screen. But again, in terms of actually executing things or doing things on your behalf, it's lacking compared to the others. So that's a quick glance at all of them. So now in terms of testing it, instead of using the prompts and using them live, it'll be a bit tricky to show because a lot of these browsers use a lot of RAM, and at some point my computer was heating up. Now mind you, I had 4 running at once, so that's a big reason why, but some of these browsers are less computationally efficient than others. For example, I have a decent computer, but when I used the Fellou browser at the same time as the Dia browser, my computer had a little bit of a seizure. So I'm going to walk you through prompts that I tested, and I'll walk through the results of that test. So this was the first prompt where I just asked, go to TechCrunch, The Verge, and Ars Technica. On each site, navigate their AI or technology section, then find and read their most recent article about AI agents or autonomous AI. And then I said extract key announcements, company names mentioned, and predicted timelines. Then search for each mentioned company's website, navigate to their about or product pages, and verify the claims made in the articles. And the core output is to create a fact check summary comparing what journalists are saying versus what companies are actually claiming on their own sites. So Perplexity did a decent job where it went, and if you go on the steps here, it navigated just using its normal browser capabilities, went through, eventually got to the point where it actually started looking at the sites and inspecting them using its agent, and it did that for different parts as well. And you can usually walk through while it's actually doing the research and navigate and see what it did on that page. In terms of agentic capability though, it didn't actually have to go through and scroll manually through each page and copy paste information because Perplexity is naturally really good at research. On GenSpark's side, it went and actually used Playwright behind the scenes, which is a browser automation tool, and then you can actually spy by clicking on view exactly what it did, what it clicked, which elements of the page it clicked, and what information it derived from those pages. And you can see also the execution results throughout, and you can see how much work it did and what web pages it saw. So in a way, you're getting a perspective view, a POV of exactly what it saw, what it did, and what information it collected. And you can see that for each version of its automation that it ran behind the scenes. So you could get a really good way to audit exactly what it saw, and most importantly, what it derived from what it saw. All right, and on the Fellou browser, it did a lot of things, but it didn't necessarily get to the result we were looking for. So I'm going to zoom in here because I can't seem to zoom any other way, but you can see I have the same prompt. In this case, it comes up with a deep action plan. It comes up with a process of the browser agent running things in parallel. So you can see here, step 1, navigate to TechCrunch website. Step 2, find and click on AI or technology section. Step 3, search for the most recent article. And then it goes through, executes the browser agent. You can see how many steps are going on here. And one thing about this browser is it uses a credit system. So every single time you run something using deep action, deep thinking, or both, it is taking away from your wallet. And after doing all that research and the browsing, and it took around 10 minutes, it comes to this task failed. So unfortunately, this didn't do a good job at actually getting to the endpoint. In terms of Dia browser, you could see it said, I can't directly browse the web or navigate websites in real time. However, I can help you with the workflow to accomplish this, and if you provide links or articles, I can analyze and fact check them for you. So this one is a lot more you doing the work versus it doing the work. All right, for the next task, I asked essentially, open 2 tabs. In one tab, open Stripe, in the other one, open Square, and basically compare their pricing. And I give it quite a bit of information on how to do that comparison. Now, the main thing I wanted to see here is whether or not it could actually physically open two tabs, then analyze them. In Perplexity's case, it doesn't actually physically open the tabs, it just does the analysis as it normally would. So it does give you the information, it just didn't actually physically, agentically open those two tabs. Now, does that matter? No, it's more so just gauging whether or not the physical nature of the browser is actually everything that they say it is. On the GenSpark side, it did actually open both of those tabs and then do the comparison between those tabs and report back. You can't see it here just because I closed the tabs after it completed, but it was able to physically do that action and come back with the final verdict and comparison. On the Fellou browser side, it did actually work and it came back with more than what we asked for. So you can see here it came up with a plan once again, very detailed plan. And obviously this is burning some tokens. It comes with a comparison after doing the side-by-side compare, and it comes up with data. And then if you click on either one of these Stripe data or Square data, you get something like this, where it walks through its findings in detail, which is cool. I would just say it didn't necessarily need to have to go through 22 different steps to get to this specific result. And then the Dia browser did come back with a pretty looking sticky note table with the information we're looking for, but nothing else beyond that, which in this case is fine. But again, it wasn't able to open those two tabs physically and audit them side by side. Now for the next experiment, I made it very easy, where I just asked it to analyze two PDFs that I already loaded on screen. So if we go to Comet first from Perplexity, you can see I opened this GPT-5 system card, which if you're not familiar, essentially allows you to understand exactly how these models work, how you should prompt them, etc. And then I also opened Claude 4 Opus and Sonnet. So my goal was, can you compare both of these PDFs, read through them, and then come back with some results on what the difference is. So in Perplexity, you can do an @ symbol where you can say at this tab, and then at this tab, go and research and compare them. And you can see here, it's referencing those PDFs and only those PDFs. So if we go on the side-by-side compare, comes back, does a really strong job, and most importantly, it did it in under a minute, which to me is really important, is that we don't spend 5 business days to wait for a result that could take a minute or two. So in GenSpark's case, I couldn't find a way to do an @ symbol to look at two specific tabs I already have open. So when I ask it to compare both system cards, it's physically attempting to go and manually search both of their system card addresses, then look at the tools there. So you can see here it's manually actually searching both, which I'm sure it'll come back with a response. You can already see it's summarizing the large documents, but it's not able to actually use both tabs we physically have open and use them in context. Now in Fellou's case, I can compare both of these tabs here. So you can see the first PDF and the second one I have on screen. It does some thinking and then it goes through, but all of a sudden here we go into Espanol, even though I didn't even ask it or speak to it in Espanol. So very interesting that it went that route. And it's not the first time I've ever seen this behavior from an agentic tool. Once in a while, GenSpark will also go full Espanol, even though I have no settings to tell it to do that. And finally, for the Dia browser, it does do a decent job of comparing both. It even has a nice little UI to show the comparison. It does a proper back and forth, and this one, I would say, is one of its best use cases. I've also tried it on 3 or 4 tabs and was able to work on those as well. And for the last prompt, I wanted to push each one of these AI browsers to do something truly agentic. So I asked it to go to Upwork.com, log into my account, then navigate to the post a job section, then create a new job posting with the following details, but to not submit it. So I didn't want it to actually click post. And then I told it we're looking for a Webflow developer for prompt advisors to make our site that much better and that much easier to read, which by the way we are. So if you are a Webflow developer, please email me and I'd love to talk to you. And then as you go down here, we go through the current situation, the skills required, and then the screening questions. So I wanted to set up everything from the posting to the screening questions and go all the way to the final stage. So Perplexity Comet, if we go to the steps here, we can finally see it physically interacting with the pages. So once I say I'm logged in, it takes control. And if I go on the steps here, you can see it actually physically navigated to Upwork and executed all of these different tasks. And I can tell you it got all the way to the very end. The post itself did look very AI sloppy with the little rocket emoji and stuff, but it did work. The only downside about Comet is that if you're not watching it live, you can't actually physically see it do the work. All right, for GenSpark, it wanted me to make things a lot more concise. It couldn't take that long of a prompt, so I compressed the prompt, I provided it. It looks very similar. I just removed some of the details. And then it goes and uses Playwright once again, But in this case, it gets a Cloudflare error warning where it's detecting that it's an AI agent or an AI browser, and it's not letting it go to the next step. In this case, it tries to get past it, but it then defaults to giving us everything we need to do it ourselves. And for the Fellou browser, it took around 19 minutes and 53 seconds, so call it 20 minutes, and it came up with a very comprehensive plan. And for this one, I would say it did a really good job. It went to the final stage. The post doesn't look too sloppy. It just has some markdown, which is fine. But overall, did a really decent job and navigated through each part. Now, did it choose the best rating for the hourly rate? I don't necessarily have the full logic here. I could probably read through all the steps as to why it decided this would be a good amount. So it says here, budget 50 to 100 an hour. But in terms of passing the test, it was able to execute it. And last but not least, Dia Browser did struggle a bit, where it says, I'm unable to directly access websites, log into accounts, or perform actions such as creating job postings for you. So in this one again, Dia Browser seems to be a great co-pilot, but not the best agentic browser. So now that you have a decent idea of exactly what it looks like to use each browser and where each one has an advantage over others, if we look at prompt engineering, this is something that spans across all of them. So in general, when it comes to research tasks, this is the structure of a prompt you want to send, where you have a role, a topic, trusted sources, and then you tell it first gather information about X, then analyze Y, then synthesize by doing XYZ. And then if you wanted to fact check, then you could say, create 3 verification questions about your findings and answer them independently. And if there's a specific format you want it to deliver in, you could just say at the very bottom, deliver results as format with specific requirements. And by the way, you don't have to screenshot this. I'm going to make this available to you in the second link in the description below. Now, for the browsers that can do a multi-tab comparison, you could do this where you do at tab 1, and then at tab 2. Then you could say compare on specific elements across tab 1 and tab 2. And in some of these browsers like Dia Browser, you could do 3 or 4 tabs. So then you'd say extract data point 1 from tab 1, extract data point 2 from tab 2, and do the differences and similarities in this way. And again, always tell it at the very end what the deliverable should be. For the autonomous actions, ideally you want to give it a goal, very similar to how you'd give it to a normal agent in an agent framework. So you want to say what the goal is and what websites you need to navigate to achieve, again, the outcome. It's good to restate it. And if you have requirements, then mention them here, and then say stop before final action. In this case, don't submit or don't send the email and await verification. So in a way, you create a human in the loop setting for the browser. And then similar to the very last one I showed you, the Upwork one, this is the general template where again, you have some objective or end goal. And then you walk through what the different phases are. And this might help a browser like Fellou or Comet or GenSpark to be able to take each one of these steps and do it in one chunk at a time. And the more deliberate you are about how you format the bottom, the better, because there's always recency bias with prompt engineering. So if you say this is the format, this is the length, this is the key emphasis, it'll be a good way to reinforce. And if you don't want to send it in one shot, then what you can do is use progressive prompting sequences, where you could say stage 1, I give you the broad context. What are the main topics and trends in XYZ industry? And then the next one could be focus research, where focus specifically on narrow topic from this time period, and then according to XYZ source, what are the key findings? And then the last one, again, is just saying what the specific output is. And now it has the context of the entire conversation up until now that it can draw on and use as a part of it. So if we were to just look at this as a general process and zoom in, then you'd have to choose your AI browser first. Is it a simple question? If yes, then just do a basic research template prompt. If it needs multiple websites, then maybe do a multi-tab comparison. And then if it requires clicking or navigation or any form of spectrum of agency, then use the autonomous actions prompt template. But if you find that that one mega shot prompt is not doing it for you and it keeps hallucinating or not getting to the end result, then you can break it up into more digestible and manageable chunks, then use a progressive sequence or prompting sequence. And then very importantly, I'm going to say, if you have anything involving sensitive data, I've had disasters happen in one of these browsers where I opened up my Gmail and I told it, can you just remove certain emails that have XYZ, but can you place the other ones in the associated folders that I list for you? What it did is it took everything out of the folders, it marked it all as unread, and now I had from an inbox of 5 emails to 5,000 emails that I had to get my VA to help me sift through once again. If you want to do research or comparisons, these are awesome vectors. But for now, until security is actually cared about versus just the power and fluency of these tools, I wouldn't make the trade-off. And as a too long don't read, I have a summary of each one of these pros and cons of each browser where it comes to the price versus the functionality, as well as security as well. So instead of me extending this video and going through them step by step, I'm gonna make this available along with the prompts I showed you as well, so you can make a very informed decision. And when you make the decision, you'll know exactly how to prompt it to derive all the juice you can from that specific tool. If that was helpful for you and saved you some time, please let me know down in the comments below. Helps the video, helps me, helps the channel. And if you like me synthesizing this kind of information in a way that's easily digestible, I do this every single day, 365, 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but a lot of the time in my early AI adopters community. So check out the first link in the description below, and I'll see you in there.